Today I'm going to talk about premarital sex. What is my view on it? Some people, some Christians will say that there's nothing in the New Testament that talks about not having premarital sex. That because we're forgiven by grace alone, that we're free. We're free to have our own moral consciences and to decide what is right and wrong. And, for the most part, I think that's true. I think there are some things where there is moral relativity, but I also think there are some places in morality that is absolute. I don't think that morality can be completely relative. But, deciding that, it's pretty clear that the New Testament does, in fact, talk about premarital sex. In Paul's letter to the Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 4, let marriage be held in honor by all, and let the marriage bed be kept undefiled. That's pretty straightforward, because while Paul does have some similar exhortations about premarital sex in 1 Corinthians, in his letter to the Ephesians, and his letter to the Thessalonians, the first letter, each of those can be construed by exegetes in a way that says, he's talking about sex with, maybe Paul's talking about, adultery. That is to say, sex while you're already married. But this makes it quite clear, because here he's saying, let the marriage bed be kept undefiled. In other words, sex is reserved only for marriage. It's not to be done not only during marriage, but before, because the marriage bed is to remain undefiled. It would be defiled if you had sex before marriage. Where the other passages, I'll go and point them out for you. 1 Corinthians 5, 1 to 13. 5:9. I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with sexual immoral persons. Well, you know what is sexually immoral, right? And so, that's it's vague. That's a problem there, even though I think, again, Hebrews clarifies for us what he means by sexually immoral. Then you have Ephesians chapter 5, 3 to 5. But fornication and impurity of any kind or greed must not even be mentioned among you. Be sure of this, that no fornicator or impure person or anyone who is greedy has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. A fornicator, that's pretty explicit here. But when we say fornication, do we mean fornication again, some people, some exegetes would argue. And then you have, finally, you have 1 Thessalonians 4, 3-7. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from fornication, that each one of you know how to control your own body in holiness and honor, not with lustful passion like the Gentiles who do not know God, that no one wrong or exploit a brother or sister in this matter. For God did not call us to impurity, but in holiness. Therefore, whoever rejects this rejects not human authority, but God, who also gives his Holy Spirit to you. So, there you go. Now, having said that, having drawn out that sexual immorality is people having sex before marriage or before an everlasting commitment between two people, I also happen to think that premarital sex is morally wrong, and I think that's why I think the exhortation is being given, not because it's a religiously moral problem, but because it's a absolutely moral problem. And there's several reasons for this. First, okay, it's just it's anatomically gross. It is it's not something that it's gross to the self. It's really being it's not being kind to your own body, morally speaking. I wouldn't put on a condom that's been on another person. I wouldn't eat food that another person has eaten. We say that a value of a car or a house goes down when people use it because it's been used. People have put their dirty feet on it. People have worn it out. People have used it. It's why would it be any different with sex? Furthermore, if I have sex with someone who's had premarital sex, I've slept with everyone they've slept with. I mean, because, as far as preventing STDs go, if that person slept with a person who had STDs, it's likely, that person could contract an STD, and if I sleep with the person who slept with someone who had an STD, it makes it likely that I'm going to contract an STD. Now, if the person's had sex with a person who's had sex with a person, the line can continue going down, and it's a huge long chain. So eventually, if all these sexually active people are having sex with all these sexually active people, it's inevitable that you are going to contract some kind of STD. Now, I'm not saying I wish that upon people, or that STDs are some divine wrath or something. It's a natural consequence of something that people shouldn't be doing. Nothing more. Having said that, I still think that, it's while people should have the legal choice to do it, because people should be able to do whatever they want to do as long as they consent, but I still think that on a moral level, that it's gross, that it's repulsive, that and I don't understand, how the pleasure outweighs that when you have ways of self achieving that fulfillment of pleasure.